Hi everybody. My name is Riel Fado. I'm the music librarian for Fort Worth Public Library. As you know, I'm also from McAllen, Texas and the Rio Grande Valley, if you were listening. Today we are with Madison Michel from Heart and Harmony Music Therapy here in Fort Worth, and she's going to do a little introduction and performance and a lot of fun stuff for us today. So Madison, if you'd like to take the floor.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be with you here today. Like Rita said, my name is Madison Michel, and I'm a board certified music therapist based out of Fort Worth, Texas with Heart and Harmony Music Therapy. We'll learn more about that in a little bit here, but I'm going to be talking to you guys about music therapy and the brain. So I can't see anybody, but I can see the chat box. And so when I ask for responses, I'll ask for them in the chat box. So who here has heard of music therapy? Has anybody, or I should say, has anyone not heard of music therapy before? Yes, no, maybe.
I guess we're all familiar, maybe. It seems like that.
There's some maybes. Know a little bit. All right. Yes, heard about it. Awesome. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to screen share this beautiful thing. And we're going to go back and forth between screen share and presentation mode. Here we go. Let's get started. So exploring music therapy. Our goals for today are going to be to just establish a baseline understanding of who we are as music therapists, who we work with, and then our company here, Heart and Harmony, since we are based in Fort Worth, then this is with the Fort Worth Public Library. All right, the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna isolate and repeat principles of why music is a powerful tool for the brain. That sounds very fancy and a lot, but it's really, we're gonna do some fun demonstrations with it and make it very tangible. And then our third goal is that we are going to brainstorm some parts of the Fort Worth community that we think would really benefit from music therapy who are not already receiving it. All right, so what is music therapy? This definition is from the American Music Therapy Association. So I'll give you a second to read that. And my personal take on music therapy is usually I explain it for, we're using music as our tool to facilitate individualized goals and objectives and meet certain needs that various individuals might have. So what does that actually look like? Let's talk about it. Firstly, who are we as music therapists? This is the Heart and Harmony team right here, some of our fabulous therapists. So a music therapist has a bachelor's degree in music therapy from an AMTA approved university. We do a 1,200-hour internship. It's pretty long. It usually takes 6 to 7 months. I'm the internship director for Heart and Harmony, and I love working with our interns and our students. And then we have to pass a board certification exam, which is big and intimidating, but then once you do it, you get these credentials, MTBC. All right, music therapists can also get advanced degrees and certifications, masters in music therapy, the neonatal intensive care unit music therapist, which I have that certification. So I'm certified with doing music therapy with NICU babies, which is a whole other presentation. Music therapy assisted childbirth. I do not have that certification, but there are a lot of therapists in my company who do. My boss, Nikki, has been doing music therapy assisted childbirth services in the Fort Worth community for a good few years now. Neurologic music therapists, guided imagery, and then other disciplines like counseling, etc., are fairly common for music therapists to have dual certifications in. okay? And you guys can email me. I'll put my email at the end for the presentation so you can get these links. This has schools offering music therapy, and then I wrote a lovely blog post with more detail on this, how to become a music therapist. All right. Who do we work with? We work with so many people. It's pretty crazy, and I think it's one of the reasons why it's hard to explain what music therapists do. It's just because we have such a broad range of specialties. So these are a lot of the diagnoses that music therapists have worked with through Heart and Harmony Music Therapy. We work with genetic disorders, autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, traumatic brain injury, stroke, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, trauma, depression, anxiety, mental health, you name it. A lot of these different populations, etc. Basically, anywhere there's a need and music can meet that need, we're gonna do it. Beautiful. All right, domains of music therapy. So we talk about music for the purpose of addressing non-music skills, right? And so our cognitive skills, that's like our executive functioning in our brain, our communication skills, so whether the individual is verbal, nonverbal, learning how to more effectively communicate. Socialization skills, music groups are fantastic for that. Music is a social activity in nature, inherently. All the cultures have always had music, right? Emotional intelligence skills. This is a big one for music therapy, and I will talk about specifically why later. Sensory motor skills. Music gets you moving. We've always danced to music, right? And then I also added music learning for inclusion because I'm passionate about inclusive ensembles and having opportunities for neurodivergent individuals and neurotypical individuals to come together in a social context and create and learn music, right? All right. So a little bit about Heart and Harmony Music Therapy of Fort Worth. Heart and Harmony's been around for over 10 years now, which is pretty crazy. Founded by my lovely boss, Nikki. And we serve clients in all of those counties, though our therapists are kind of based in areas and kind of stick to one area. So me personally, I work in Tarrant County and Johnson County. Though right now I am working all from home doing teletherapy, woohoo. And we primarily serve individuals through the class Medicaid waiver and the YES waiver. So the class waiver serves individuals with various disabilities. The YES Medicaid waiver works with children with mental health needs or diagnoses. And then through private funding, we have various contracts throughout the community. And you can learn more about that. If you want to learn more about that, I can send you the presentation and you can click through to those things. Whoa, okay. Our team currently has 9 music therapists and 3 interns, and we have a lot of practicum students who get to work with our practice, which is really cool. We love students. Here's our website and some great opportunities to find or donate to music therapy funding. The Fort Worth Music Therapy Fund, which is also founded by my boss, Nikki Belshi. She just, does all the things. And so if you're interested in either finding funding for music therapy and applying for it, or in donating for people to get music therapy services, that's what Fort Worth Music Therapy Fund is for. Beautiful. This is our mission statement for our team. I put it on here because you're getting to know our team and me as a representative of our team, and I feel very strongly that the mission statement represents my personal mission as a music therapist. Okay, so I'll give you a second to read that. With some background music, because it is a music presentation. All right. And then finally, about me, just a little more about who I am. My positions with Heart and Harmony, I'm a board certified music therapist, and then I am the internship director. I got my undergrad at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, as they say. Like I said, I have my NICU certificate. I am currently in the process, almost done, with my distance master's from Colorado State, getting my master's in music therapy that focuses in neuroscience, which is pretty awesome. And then my specialized clinical experience, I have worked with all of these populations that you see listed here extensively. So that just means that's my area of clinical expertise. We have other therapists in our practice with other areas of clinical expertise. Yes, neonatal music therapy is definitely fascinating. All right, we can talk about it later in the question section if we have time. How about that? Okay. All right, so let's talk about goal one. Our goal one was to establish a baseline understanding of what music therapy is, who music therapists are, who we work with, and who Heart and Harmony Music Therapy is. So you guys tell me in this lovely little chat box here, do you feel like you have a better understanding of who we are and who we work with? Do you have any questions so far? I'll give you a second to think while I grab my guitar. Yes, a better understanding. Very interesting. Haha. Covers a lot more than I thought. Are there people not appropriate? Okay, Nikki, we'll get there. Nikki asked, are there people not appropriate for music therapy for some reason? It does happen on occasion. So we do assessments, individualized assessments, where the board certified music therapist will work with that individual. They'll kind of interview the family. They'll talk about what the client's needs are. And we have had times where the client or we together as the therapist and client have decided that music therapy is probably not the best for them right now. That could be because music is also very stimulating, and if the client is struggling with all of that stimulation, sometimes it can be too much. Sometimes switching music therapists can be the solution, right? So I am not a music therapist who has worked extensively with major depressive disorders or mental health diagnoses, but right, my colleagues, I have colleagues who are, and so it might be as simple as switching, making sure they have the right music therapist. So assessed on an individual basis is the answer to that question. All right, so I'm going to exit screen share for a minute because we're gonna have some fun and do a little bit of movement to music. All right, so I can't see everybody, but I expect participation. So we are going to do 3 different movements, and it's going to be with our feet. So we're going to get our feet moving when we're at our desk. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do toe taps. So get my feet up here, where you're just tapping your toes up and down, up and down. Then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to extend our legs, right? So from the knee, you'll kick up, down, and you'll swap legs. And then the third thing we're going to do is full on marching, right? So we go from movement from the ankles to movement from the knees to movement from the hips. This is something that I'm likely to do with some of my clients who are in stroke recovery and are recovering those motor skills, or are working on developing strength in their legs, etc. All right, so first off, we're going to start with those toe taps. We're going to go up, up, down. Okay, give me a second here. I got a little nervous, guys. Up, up, down, up, down. All right, keep those toe taps going. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the time that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line. All right, great job, everybody. Tapping those toes. Now we're gonna work on extending our legs. So we're gonna go up, down, up, down, up, down. There we go. I find it very, very easy to be true. I find myself alone when each day is through. Yes, I'll admit that I'm a fool for you. Because you're mine, I walk the line. Great job. Now we're gonna do the big one. It's gonna be marching in place. Up, down, up, down, up, down. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. Up, down, up, down. I keep the ends out for the time that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line. All right. Now that we've got our heart rates up a little bit and gotten moving, our brains can be a little more engaged because we're about to get into the neuroscience of music therapy. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. So like I said, that is something that I might use with a stroke recovery group who's working on strengthening those motor skills, working on endurance, etc. But that could really be generalized to anybody who's working on those skills, right? Or when you're in a webinar and you're learning, and sometimes you need to move a little bit to re-engage, right? Okay, so let's move on to goal 2. Okay, goal 2 was isolate and repeat principles of why music is a powerful tool for the brain. I'm really gonna hammer this home, you guys. Really gonna hammer it home, okay? So here are our 3 principles that I want you guys to know. Number 1, preferred music releases dopamine, otherwise known as the pleasure hormone. All right, more about that in a second. Number 2, music helps the brain organize information. And number 3, music accesses multiple sensory networks. So those are our 3 principles. Let's learn about them. Whoa, there we go. Okay, preferred music releases dopamine, the pleasure hormone. Okay, let's talk about that. All right, so we have this part of our brain called the limbic system. And the limbic system is what controls everything from like, oh, my heart's racing, to your very baseline emotional reactivity, to releasing different hormones, right? It's what's in charge of fight or flight. So epinephrine, etc. And so when we talk about dopaminergic regions of the brain, it means the limbic system, where all of those hormones are controlled, right? So Dopaminergic regions of the brain are responsible for motivation, reward, and learning. All right. And so what music therapists do is we provide an enhanced learning environment for non-musical tasks through the music stimulated tasks. Okay, I know, we're getting fancy here. So basically what I really want to hammer home here is we pair music, which the music is pleasing. We like music, it makes us feel good, it gets us excited, it releases dopamine, and when it releases dopamine, we are ripe for learning, okay? And then you pair that with a non-music task, like say with what we were just doing, if your body, the motor areas of your brain are learning how to walk again, right? And so you already have all that dopamine circulating from the music, and then you're doing the non-music task. So that learning is going to be accelerated, which is really cool. Let me give you another metaphor here. I'm very excited about this metaphor. It is the library. We do like metaphors, I would assume. So, all right. So I also like to think of it, oh, somebody commented on my silly comment. We do. So I like to think of it, we're going to make a Star Wars comparison because why not, right? So when you're first learning to access the Force, and maybe you're trying to make something move with your mind, right? And so you got your highlighter over here, and you're making it like twitch, 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 but you can't get it to fly to you, right? That's a skill that you have not yet mastered. And then you start listening to music or engaging in music in some way, and your brain's like, oh, preferred music, I'm releasing dopamine. And the dopamine starts going, and your learning accelerates, and you're like, and then the highlighter comes to you, and you are able to access the full power of the Force. And that's what music can do, is it can really allow our brains those pathways, those powerful pathways, to learn at a quicker pace. All right, so let's see. In other words, music serves as a reward and motivation for completion of non-music tasks. Again, that pairing of music and non-music tasks. Okay, that was a lot. Let's do an example. All right. So I can't really see you guys here, so I was hoping for a volunteer, but I might just use the chat box and ask y'all to collectively volunteer. All right, so we're gonna do a song here. Say you really love the Beatles, right? That's a preferred song for you, and I know that as your music therapist. And you are working on identifying what is triggering you emotionally and making you get upset, right? You're having trouble with, and I think we can all relate, the world right now, there's a lot going on, and it can be hard to identify what is really, really making me upset in this moment. And so we're gonna work on identifying that, and then we're gonna identify on identifying a coping skill that can bring us out of a state of distress, okay? So I would start out by singing, all right. All right, my friends. We're gonna do some Hard Day's Night because I know it's your favorite. It's been a hard day's night. I've been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do make me feel alright. Alright? And so then I would tell you, okay, we are going to rewrite this song to be specific to us. Okay? I'm going to pull up my rewrite here. There it is. Okay. So I want you guys to tell me in the chat box, think about what is something that you've been having a hard time with today or this week or in general? What is hard for you? What is causing your hard days night? Procrastinating. Oh, all right, Jordan Bailey. All right, I understand that. I am in grad school. So it's been a hard day's night. So we could change it to be, I've been procrastinating like a dog, right? Anybody else have one that is making your day harder, making your week harder? It's triggering you emotionally, triggering distress? Insomnia, yeah. I should be sleeping like a log. That goes so well there. So I think we could say, I can't sleep tonight, and I should be sleeping like a log. What do you think about that? Is that good? Or insomnia tonight? Insomnia tonight. I have insomnia. Okay, so we'll make it fit with the lyrics. So we're taking your preferred music, right? And then we're making it your own. And so you hear that preferred music and you're like, yeah, I really like this. And your brain's like, all right, you're having a good time. Let's release some dopamine. And then we bring in the skill, right? We're identifying things that are triggering us. Okay, so now we want to identify something that can make those things better. So Jordan and Rita, either of you guys, how can you get yourself out of that in a healthy way? But when I take a long walk. I like to do that too. But when I take a long walk, and I minimize distraction, okay, so let's try it. It's been a hot day tonight. I've been procrastinating like a dog. I have insomnia tonight. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I take a long walk or minimize distraction, I will be sleeping all right. All right. So that is just one example of a way we can use music to address a skill, right? And so you've got that paired experience of, I'm taking music I love and pairing it with a non-music task, and it helps you identify those skills, right? So we met our objective. Client will identify an emotional trigger and elaborate on possible coping skills to apply when the trigger occurs. Pretty cool. All right, let me check our time. 6:30. All right, let me get moving. Okay, so first principle, dopamine. Music releases dopamine. Second principle, music helps the brain organize information. So music is naturally structured. We have melody, sha-la-la-la-la. We have harmony. So when I play guitar and move through my chords, that's harmony. And we have rhythm, right? And so all of those elements provide a natural structure and a sequence. And if you've ever studied music before, you might have heard of different forms of music, like A section, B section, A section. You can also think of verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, which is every pop song ever. So we have a really natural structure, and from hearing music our whole lives, our brains have expectations of where music is gonna go, right? And so this happens from a very young age. That's why I put this here. Infants as young as 6 months can detect those changes in melody. So they'll turn their little heads, be like, oh, the melody changed. Oh, that's not what it's supposed to be. It's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm gonna demonstrate real quick. So just by yourself, nobody can hear you, so no worries. I'm gonna sing, and then I'm gonna pause, and you're gonna sing, okay? Here we go. I got the eye of love, tiger the fighter, dancing through fire, 'cause I am the champion. You're gonna hear me. And what did you do? You sang roar, right? Music has a natural structure, and so our brains have that expectation built in. And so as music therapists, we can use that structure to plan and sequence things so that we are enhancing the learning environment. So using music to memorize the state capitals for a test, right? Who did that as a kid? A lot of us did. That's a great example. That's one way that the structure of music functions as a tool for your memory and your cognitive skills. Okay. And drive towards resolution. Music drives towards resolution. That's when you're gonna hear me. And then I'm like, okay, music's over. You would be like, no, you're gonna hear me roar. Roar. We want that resolution, right? And so if I'm working with a client who's working on controlling their voice and using their voice, that's a really powerful tool, okay? And deviation from structure demands attention. This is like a phenomena of perception that you can see doing any activity, right? Like right now, my fan is going, right? There's a constant sound from that. There's light coming in. So even though I'm getting those different stimuli, sorry, I'm not distracted by them. But if something happened that was not normal, like the cat runs in the door and jumps on the computer, which is why the door is closed, then that deviates from normal, right? And so within music, you have this ultra structured, normalized sound, and then it defies your expectations and it gets your attention, which makes music a tool for attention. Oh, it's so cool. All right, so let's do an example. How does music help the brain organize information? What time is it? 6:34. Okay, so here is our activity. You at home are going to listen for a pattern, and then whenever you hear my pattern, you're gonna raise your hand. Okay, here's pattern 1. So you'll raise your hand when you hear that. Raise your hand. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to play some music, and you got to focus that attention. Whenever you hear that, raise that hand. All right, how many times did you raise your hand? Did you catch all of them? I think I did 3. I could be wrong though. All right, so that was our pattern. We listened for that pattern. Now I'm going to change it. Now you're going to be listening for, again, that's, raise your hand, okay? Here we go. Did you raise your hand? I believe I did it twice that time, that pattern. Did anybody accidentally raise their hand on when I played the first pattern? Because I was doing that too. So now we're going to change the rules again. Now you will only raise your hand if you hear the 2 patterns in sequence. So you would either hear that whole thing, or you would hear but not when they're separate, only when they're together. Here we go. Did you get that time? I did them in sequence twice, but I did them individually a lot more than that. And so what was the point of me switching up the pattern, right? I'm teaching you an expectation from music. You're listening for that. You're focusing on that. And you hear it. And then you react, right? But then I change that pattern. We're teaching your brain flexibility by using the organization of the music, right? I just love this stuff. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. Here we go. Okay, and so here's what our goal and objective looked like. So we were working on focused attention. That's a skill we all need. I need it all the time. Working from home, I have to really, really intentionally work on this skill, right? So clients will react appropriately to a changing specified stimulus in 3 different trials with no more than 2 total mistakes. How valuable is this for helping you practice organization skills with your brain, right? So like you think of doing a puzzle, you're practicing organization skills. Music is a different way to practice organizing, right? But you've got this auditory structure that is so cool. And if you can see me in person, you can also observe my spatial patterns that I'm doing on my dulcimer there. All right, so woo, let's review. Okay, so our last two principles, dopamine, right? Music releases dopamine. Number two, music helps our brain organize information. And then number three, music accesses multiple sensory networks. Now this is the one that I am super, super big on. And so interns, I think we have some of our interns on. You guys are gonna hear me talk about this all the time throughout internship, because this is so important. Music activates and integrates multiple sensory networks. So let's go over all the sensory networks just because we have more than 5 senses. So we've got auditory, obviously. We've got visual, seeing the action. We've got tactile, so the touch, the texture, feeling that. Proprioception. So proprioception is your awareness of body and space. So me right now, I'm aware that my feet are below me, even though I can't see them, and I can control my feet below me, right? And so people who have neurodivergencies, right, their sensory systems for proprioception are sometimes not connected in the way that gives them complete control over their motor skills. And so that's really important for using music for proprioception. Vestibular, that's kind of your sense of balance, right? And so if you ever sit there and shake your foot anxiously, that kind of helps you ground and balance, right? If you're ever on a boat, you lose your sense of balance. Ever had a really bad ear infection? That affects your vestibular senses, okay? And then of course we have olfactory, which is our smell, oral, which is our taste, and then interoception, which is our internal self, our organs and all that stuff. But that one we're not going to talk about much. All right. Whew, that's a lot. Our senses. Okay. So next, cells that fire together, wire together. All right. This is why this is so important, because music accesses these multiple sensory networks. And when all of those sensory networks are firing, it helps with more wiring. Cool. Okay, let's take a break from the brain talk. And I want you to think about some of your childhood memories. Think about what stood out to you about those childhood memories, right? Was it a smell? Was it a feeling? A lot of our memories are super engaged with sensory experiences. All right, so think about that for a second. And let's look at this picture of the brain. Woohoo! Okay, so these are all of the areas of your brain that sensory systems are active in. In other words, basically the entire brain. We are sensory creatures. Our sensory systems are part of what makes us us. They create our memories. They shape our experience. All right. So with that being said, let's have a look at this here. Okay. So why music? Why does music help with your sensory experience and integrating sensory systems? It's because music gives us a way to focus all of the stimulation, right? So what you're hearing, what you're touching or feeling, what you're seeing. I believe this was proprioception. So she's super aware of her body and space. She's got her hands back there. Whew, I can't do that. Yoga is good for that, right? Our vestibular senses, our sense of balance and being. And then our oral senses, like what is my mouth doing, right? How do I form words? It's not just a motor skill, it's a sensory skill too. So we know that our sensory systems are affected by each other. There's so many studies in psychology on this. The McGurk effect is one of the most famous ones you might have heard of. So that is where they did the experiment where the audio was saying ba, ba, but then you were seeing somebody say ga, ga, ga. But hearing ba and seeing ga made people perceive da. So just from that evidence alone, we know like audition and vision are so integrated and affect each other in so many ways, and all of our sensory systems do that, right? And so music provides us a medium to focus this, right? And it's not always good to have too much sensory stimulation. It's how we become overstimulated, overwhelmed. But for people who have sensory integration needs, music can provide a way to ground them, right? Because it's grabbing all of these different senses. You're reaching out, you're touching the guitar, you're feeling the rhythm, which is helping with your vestibular sense. You're feeling that tactile, you're hearing it, you're seeing what your hand is doing and what the therapist is playing. You're seeing all of that. All of this is happening together, and it's integrating your sensory experience and helping ground you. And it helps you form the skill. And so for a client that I was talking about just then, the skill might be focusing their attention, right? And just being calm and centered, yeah? Okay, I talk a lot about sensory. Please, y'all tell me if you want me to elaborate on things or elaborate less on things. Okay, let me check our time real quick. 6:47, okay. So we're gonna work on sensory awareness in this one. So our goal is to improve our sensory motor awareness. So we're focusing on proprioception here, like we talked about your awareness of body and space. And so we're focusing on controlling our body parts in space, okay? So kind of mindfulness, if you ever have done mindfulness, practicing this cognitive control of your body systems. All right. So I'm gonna shorten this a little bit just because I want us to have some more time. I want you all to sit back in your chair with your feet on the ground. And I want you to close your eyes. Now we're gonna take a deep breath in and out. And in and out. Continue to breathe, and I want you to imagine you are walking on a path in the forest. You can smell the pine trees and feel the soft breeze on your face. The ground is soft but firm beneath your feet. You stop and take your shoes off to enjoy the feel of the earth on your bare feet. As you stand with your feet evenly on the ground, you scrunch up your toes to feel all the tension balled up, and you feel the earth beneath your feet and release. And again, we're gonna scrunch up our toes. Nice and tight. Tighten those toes and release. One more time. Tighten those toes and release. Breathe in and out. In and out. So after you feel the tension leave your feet, you continue walking along the path until you come to a clearing. The clearing is lined with trees, filled with singing birds, and you feel a full gust of cool wind. You pull your shoulder blades tightly together and extend your arms to welcome the wind and release. And you pull your shoulder blades back, feel the wind, nice and tight, and release. And one more time, pull those shoulder blades back, feel that wind on your face, and release. And breathe in and out. And as you feel comfortable, go ahead and open your eyes. Right. So in that exercise, we explored our senses. We used memory to connect to different sensory experiences. And then we used that to control our bodies, right? Feel the dirt in your toes, release that tension. And using it to tighten our shoulder blades and release that tension. For me, that's where I carry all my tension, is my shoulder blades. And just in general, the world right now is so stressful. And so taking the time to do those things is just so important, right? Self-care, it's important, guys. But then when you look at music therapy specific self-care, you have a board certified music therapist who is facilitating that experience and can make it specific to you or make it specific to the group and what the group needs, right? And so that's what makes it really, really unique and different. All right, so let me share this screen. So we improved our sensory motor awareness. We isolated and controlled. We didn't do all 4 body parts. We did 2, but that's okay. Okay. So our goal 2 was to isolate and repeat principles of why music is a powerful tool for the brain. Can anybody recall them? What was our first principle? Anyone? It involves the limbic system and releasing the dopamine, releasing dopamine, which is a motivator and a reward for pairing a music and non-music task, okay? So music releases dopamine, that's number 1. Anybody remember number 2? Think about using music to memorize all of the capitals in the United States. So music helps us organize the brain, right? So music releases dopamine, music helps us organize, helps our brain organize. And then number 3, what we just did, music integrates our sensory systems. And so those 3 things are why music is so beneficial and why music therapy is a particularly wonderful therapy for those who love music and you know, for anyone who uses music in their daily lives, music therapists offer a way to really target that, okay? So now I want to know from y'all, our goal 3 is to identify parts of the Fort Worth community that could benefit from music therapy. What do you guys think? Where do you know Is there an area that you think is underserved that could benefit from music therapy that's not getting it? Ooh. Oh, look, you guys were answering. So I'll tell you mine. For me, and this is not going to happen anytime soon because of the pandemic, but me, something I want to do is I want to have an inclusive ensemble. I want to have neurodivergent individuals and neurotypical individuals come together and create music together and create a social experience together. And that's something that I don't think that our community knows that it needs, but it does. Let's see, nursing homes and assisted living. Yes, absolutely. Those, I think there should be a music therapist in every nursing home or facility in America. Yeah. After school programs. That's a great one too. So, right, working on those emotional skills and that emotional intelligence and coping, those are so important for children and adolescents in development. Yeah. Anything else? Intergenerational music groups. Ooh. Y'all might have seen some of these somewhere. They exist somewhere in the United States. I think New York, where it's, you know, they have preschoolers who come and do music with elders, and it's really cool. Yeah. And everyone could use it for one reason or another. Intergenerational was what I was thinking. Yeah, that's great, you guys. I really, and not to go back and hound on the times that we are in, but we are in a time of collective trauma in our society, right? And so anxiety is really, really high. And so we need mediums to be able to focus anxiety that we can do safely and effectively, right? And so music therapy is something different that can offer that, you know? Maybe talk therapy is not your thing. You don't want to do it. Music therapy offers another way, another path to that. Yeah. I love intergenerational. Let's do it, Fort Worth Library, someday. Not right now, but someday. When it is safe to do. Okay. All right, those are my references. Again, if you want to know more, I can share my presentation with you. This article in particular, Stegemoller, Exploring a Neuroplasticity Model of Music Therapy. Interns, y'all are going to read that. It's a fantastic article. And that is my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
So hi everyone, I'm back. I've been here, just off and mute. Does anybody else have any questions for Madison? I know that was a spectacular, great hour of music therapy. I know that I feel like that helped me in this short hour that we had. But does anybody have any questions for her? I know I was just curious how you decided to get into music therapy. Did you start off maybe, I know I used to be a music teacher, and that kind of led me down the path that I'm in, but how did you discover music therapy? Especially for those who might be here who are possibly considering it as maybe their next career step or something they've been interested in studying.
That's a great question. So I have a weird story. I do want to say though that the becoming a music teacher and then wanting to do something different is a very common path to music therapy. Because one thing I was so excited about is the opportunity to use this to educate. Because a lot of people just don't know that it exists, right? And so for the adults who learn about it and are like, well, I wish I knew about that, that's a very common path. For me, I am actually a third generation music therapist. My grandfather, his name's Dr. Don Michel. I'm actually doing my graduate research on him. and his contributions. He was one of the first pioneers of music therapy in the United States, started practicing in 1950. So I'd always been around music therapy. And then I went to, and it was so like strange to me. I was like, whatever, Gramps, because they were always just, we had so many international folks who would always come to my grandfather's house and they were always playing music all the time. And as a kid, I loved it. As a teenager, I was sassy about it. And he was a professor at Texas Women's for years and years at the music therapy program there. And it's really funny because I just wanted nothing to do with it. And so I went to college to study vocal performance. And I was in an opera and decided, I don't think I want to do this. So I kind of came back to my roots. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Lisa says. That's a neat heritage. And that really is, that's a really interesting lineage to kind of go down and be passed down from. So that's really awesome. Do you have any other insights for us? Anything else that you'd like to share with us? Or does anybody have any questions? You're welcome to put that in the chat. We can keep it open for a few more minutes until we kind of wrap up here. But do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, if you're interested in music therapy or like learning about it as a career path, I have that blog post, How to Become a Music Therapist. And then one of our other therapists on our team, Miranda, has also written one on music therapy equivalency. So that's for people who already have a degree in like music education and want to go back and become a music therapist. And so those opportunities are around and available. And if you're interested in music therapy services, you can always go check out heartandharmony.com. So I don't know, Nikki, if you want to stick the website in there in the chat box. And it is also in the presentation. Ooh, I'm going to put my email. So there's my email, there's our website. So you can look into those different things based on whatever you want. I hope you guys learned.
Yeah, it was really great. I know I learned a lot from it. I always kind of knew about it from music school, and I always saw people who were going into it or studying it, but I never really knew the extent of it. So I thought this presentation was really wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And then you did mention that you were doing stuff virtually as well, or Heart and Harmony in general is doing virtual stuff. Was that like a hard transition to do that, or has it been a good experience so far for everybody?
Sure, a little bit of all of that. We're really lucky to have one of our music therapists is also a fabulous tech guru and does web design. She designed our website, Annie, and she created a teletherapy e-course, which is actually on our website. So if you are a music therapist or a music therapy student and you want to learn about teletherapy, it's a fabulous e-course. And so she really kind of gave us a leg up and helped us get the tools that we needed to do well. I would say the hardest thing for me is I can't touch my clients through a screen,
Yeah.
you know? So we lose that tactile stimulation. But what I do like about it is now I usually have a caretaker or a family member that I'm able to kind of co-facilitate with. And so it's actually really nice in that way. But yeah, we're doing all teletherapy just because we work with a lot of vulnerable populations and we just want to better safe than sorry for us. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. The library is definitely about that too. So hopefully once we open up again, we can start doing in-person stuff. We can definitely start doing things, hopefully like the intergenerational thing, because I think that would be, it's beneficial for the whole family. And I think a lot of people would really just benefit and grow from this kind of experience. So hopefully soon, but we want everybody to stay safe so far and enjoy that we can provide like this great one today. So thank you so much. Is there anybody else who has any questions, comments, concerns? Hopefully no concerns. Well, it looks like we're done. If you did, make sure that you get her email from there if you're interested in the presentation, or you can send us an email at Fort Worth Library. I think it's LIB where you had registered. I'd have to look it up really quick, but you can always shoot us a message or an email. We can also send you the presentation as well, or give you Madison's information or the heartandharmony.com information as well. So thank you so much for joining us today and doing this amazing presentation. And thank you everybody for joining us.